Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Waxman-Bakshi. Today is September 9th, 2024. This is the daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. We are live on Instagram, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and available afterwards wherever you get your podcasts. Please start submitting questions in the chat, and as always, like and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. Today is day 339 of the October 7th war. Breaking news just coming in right now is that 13 Palestinians have illegally crossed without permits into Israel and have been apprehended by Israeli police on highway number 6. This is breaking news, and so I don't have any further details. Let's continue from here, just to let you know that that is happening right now. Begs the question, why are Palestinians trying to enter illegally into the state of Israel? Families in Israel's north are again running to shelters. Sirens rang out this morning. When sirens sound in the north, it usually means one thing. The Hezbollah terror army is attacking from Lebanon. An explosive drone slammed into a residential building in the city of Nahariya. It happened the night before, too. People in Israel's north were awakened at 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. as Hezbollah fired dozens of rockets at their homes. This is the new normal for 11 months now. Since Hezbollah joined the war against Israel on October 8th, Iran's terror army in Lebanon has launched nearly 8,000 rockets, missiles, and suicide drones at people in Israel. 60,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. Hezbollah has explicitly said it is trying to murder innocent civilians in Israel. And Hezbollah has succeeded in murdering innocent civilians in Israel, like the 12 Arabic-speaking Druze children Hezbollah hit with a rocket as they were playing soccer in the town of Majd al-Shams in July. There is now discussion of some kind of diplomatic deal to end Hezbollah's attacks. At the same time, Israel's military says that it is ready to take on Hezbollah within minutes of getting the order. Hezbollah and the Iranian regime that supports it must end their war against Israel. If not, Israel will do what it must to restore security to Israel's north and bring back the people of Israel to their homes. Why are we not seeing people demonstrate around the world? We are learning more about the horrific conditions that Israeli hostages are enduring in Hamas's terror dungeons in Gaza. Israeli media reported that the 6 Israeli hostages that Hamas executed were held in a tunnel that was barely wide enough for 2 people. It was too low for them to stand upright. It was difficult to breathe. The tunnel had no air vents, no toilets, and no showers. The hostages had very little food. One of the hostages, Edin Yerushalmi, weighed just 36 kilograms. That's 80 pounds when she was executed by Hamas. Hamas keeps the hostages that remain alive in unbearable conditions. We need massive pressure on Hamas right now and massive pressure on Hamas's backers, Qatar, Turkey, and Iran right now before it's too late. We Israelis are doing everything we can to bring them home now. We need the rest of the world to demand, let them go now. Finally, a few words on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Here are some stats from the IDF from yesterday. 208 trucks carrying humanitarian goods entered Gaza from Israel. 33 trucks entered through the Erez crossing into northern Gaza, and 175 trucks entered through the Kerem Shalom crossing into southern Gaza. Out of the 175 trucks that entered Gaza through Kerem Shalom, only 132 trucks were collected on the Gazan side of the border. 114 trucks were collected by the private sector, and only 18 trucks were collected by the United Nations. That's right. 43 trucks were not collected. Where is the United Nations? Why isn't it doing its job? Israel is blamed for shortages, but it is the UN just leaving truckloads of aid on the border. 5 tankers of fuel and 6 tankers of cooking gas for essential infrastructure were transferred in. Yesterday was the 4th and last day of the second stage of the preemptive polio vaccination campaign. 440,451 children were vaccinated. I remind you, Hamas continues to attack Israelis. It continues to hold hostages, and it threatens to execute more hostages and carry out more October 7th massacres. Israel will do everything possible to destroy Hamas and ensure the safe return of the hostages, while also doing everything possible to avoid a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Now let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
It's a question from Instagram about what is the situation in the West Bank, and more specifically, what can you tell us about the recent Israeli military operations in Jenin? Who is Israel fighting there?
So that's a good question, because as I've been seeing around social media, people are saying, well, what is Israel doing right now in the West Bank? You're supposedly fighting Hamas, and Hamas is only in Gaza. Well, let's begin by saying that Hamas is not only in Gaza. Hamas is in the West Bank, Judea, and Samaria as well. But along with Hamas, there are other terrorist organizations, Islamic Jihad organizations, and they are planning to attack, and they are attacking, and they are executing suicide attacks, and as we've seen in Tel Aviv, and they are killing Israelis in the West Bank, and Israel is preemptively going in and trying to stop this. They are fighting militants, terrorist militants. And I've been seeing people online accusing Israel of going into the West Bank and targeting civilians. But like we always say, our Israeli soldiers are also being killed in those operations. And so if an Israeli soldier is being killed in an operation, basic logic tells you somebody is firing back. This is a battle. This is a two-sided battle. It is important to say that as of last night, the operation in Jenin has ended at the moment. And images coming out of Jenin were Islamic Jihad militants, terrorists, standing there screaming, "Khaybar, Khaybar, ya Yahud." And for those who don't understand what that phrase means, it's a reference to a Jewish town that Muhammad killed all the Jews. This is back in the sixth century. And when they reference Khaybar, Khaybar, ya Yahud, they are saying murder to all the Jews. Clearly, this is about Jews. This is not about occupation. This is not about borders. This is about radical, fundamental Islamic ideology to kill the Jews.
There's a headline on CNN right now that says, according to Syrian state media, at least 16 were killed and 36 injured in Israeli airstrikes in Syria. Do you have any information on this?
So I don't have any specific information, but what I can say is that we know that Iran, who is launching the war against Israel, they are responsible for everything that we are seeing. They are attacking Israel via its proxies. They are also infiltrating Syria. They have hijacked the people of Syria and Lebanon for one purpose only: to destroy Israel and kill the Jews. So Israel, if this information is correct, does whatever it can to target military targets that are threatening Israel. We know that Iran is also supplying lots of weapons that are in Syria, and preparing to, send rockets and drones from Syria as well, and from, everyone in our region.
It's a question from Instagram Live. How is Qatar involved in the negotiations if Qatar also supports Hamas?
That's a great question. I ask myself that question every single day. Unfortunately, because Qatar is so strongly linked with Hamas, they back them with money, they allow their corrupt leadership and billionaires to lodge there in their fancy hotels. They also have, they are the only country probably right now that actually has some real leverage over Hamas, because they, control the funds and they support their lives. in Doha. And so, unfortunately, we are in this position where they, at this point, are probably the best person or the best country to mediate negotiations. On the one hand, they want to, appease the West. They want to appease the United States, which has military agreements there with an American base or American bases in Qatar. And the Qataris, they also, they're at the end of the day, they're interested in money and power, and having business with America and the West is the way they can influence the world and gain more money through business transactions. And so on the one hand, you see them trying to appease the West by being a negotiator and mediator. On the other hand, they are, appeasing Hamas. And so this is the situation, unfortunately, that we are in. And that's why we have to continue putting pressure on Qatar that if they want to continue a relationship with the West, then they must bring a deal now.
Yesterday, there was a terrorist attack by a Jordanian on the Israel-Jordan border at the Allenby Bridge. Do you have any more information on the results of this attack, and especially the reaction to this attack, both in Jordan from the monarchy or from the Jordanian people?
Well, unfortunately, the result of this attack is 3 Israeli civilians that were murdered in cold blood. And reaction, I mean, crickets. We're still waiting. The Jordanian monarch has said nothing. There's no condemnation. And unfortunately, as we have grown accustomed to see, the streets of Jordan are celebrating the death of Jews.
This is a question from our Instagram Live. How will the IDF achieve its war goals if we are always on the defensive due to pressure from the Western world who don't get it?
Well, that's a good question. At the end of the day, I believe that Israel has to, maneuver diplomatically to keep its allies and its ties, but also do what's right for it and to protect its civilians. And I think the Israeli government and the Israeli people understand that we have no other choice but to win, not only to defend our civilians today against the imminent attacks from Hamas and other terrorist organizations surrounding us, but also for the future, to send the message to all of our enemy states in the area, in the region, that we will continue, we will fight, we will protect ourselves. You won't win. Israel is not going anywhere. We must show strength to win and to deter anyone trying to wipe us off the map.
Every day there are more headlines about the chances for Israel and Hamas reaching some type of agreement that would see the release of hostages. Some days are optimistic, some days are pessimistic. How do you assess what's going on, and what are the obstacles to the hostages coming home?
Well, it's very difficult to assess, especially, when we're getting our information from media and none of us are sitting at the negotiation table. What is very clear is that it is Hamas that time and time again rejects a deal. It has never agreed to a deal, ever. I think it's important that people understand that. Israel has fine-tuned and has made the concessions, and it is always Hamas that does not approve or accept a deal. And so it's difficult to assess. I believe that we're in a very critical time right now, especially with the United States becoming a little bit more urgent. They're showing up more of an urgency to get this deal signed, and hopefully the United States will be able to bring a deal that will bring them home, but will also not pose a security risk for Israel. Now, when I say security risk for Israel, what do I mean by that? I mean, the Philadelphia corridor, the Netzarim corridor. These are strategic areas of the Gaza Strip that are a lifeline for Hamas. They are the places where Hamas is able to not only bring in weapons and supplies through Egypt, through tunnels or through Egypt directly, but also to maneuver within the Gaza Strip. So whether it's moving militants from the south to the north, which we have already seen, beginning to happen. And this is crucial for ending the survival of Hamas and its capability, its military capability to attack Israel again. And so I really hope that the United States, who is trying to broker this deal, again, together with Qatar, that they are able to find a deal that all sides, all parties are able to agree on to bring the hostages home.
Our final question today is from our YouTube live. How safe is it to travel to countries with skyrocketed anti-Semitism, such as Australia? Should I wear my yarmulke and be proud?
Well, I can't tell you specifically about Australia because I've never been, but I can tell you that I just got back from a summer vacation with my family, and I walked around Paris in the metro with my, my Jewish jewelry on me. And I did get some looks, and I did get, but nothing was said to me, and I never felt in real danger. So I think that we should be proud of who we are. We have nothing to, we have nothing to hide for. We know that we are on the right side of history, and we know, like I said, that we have no other choice. And if there is anything that we have learned from history, it's that when the Jewish people said, maybe I'll just hide the fact that I'm Jewish. If you remember the story of Hanukkah, we used to play with the dreidels. And when the Romans would come, we would, the Assyrians, when they would come, we would hide the Torah books and pretend that we were not Jewish. That never led to anything good. That only led to them conquering us, to them exiling us, to the destruction of our temples, to a Holocaust, to pogroms. And so we finally have our sovereign state. And so you should be as proud as you can to be a Jew today. And I say, travel wherever you want, and be smart about where you're going, to what neighborhoods and what you're saying, but never bow down and never hide who you are. So that is all that we have time for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Israel time, 8 a.m. Eastern time. Have a good, quiet day, everyone.